The U.S. China trade war, now in its seventh year, has intensified into a broader contest over technology, supply chains, and geopolitical influence. In 2025, tensions remain high, driven by the upcoming U.S. presidential election and China's deepening economic crisis. Both nations are doubling down on self-reliance and strategic dominance, reshaping global trade dynamics. The conflict has evolved beyond tariffs, affecting global alliances, investment flows, and technological ecosystems. Amid economic uncertainty and rising nationalism, the risk of further escalation looms large, with ripple effects being felt across industries, markets, and international relations. The world watches as the rivalry reshapes globalization's next chapter. In 2025, the U.S. intensifies its strategy of tech suppression plus trade protectionism against China. Technology exports face tighter controls, expanding bans on AI, quantum computing, and biotech technologies to limit Chinese access. Tariffs between 25 to 50% are imposed on Chinese EVs, batteries, and drones, citing national security concerns. The CHIPS Act 2.0 boosts domestic tech capacity, increasing funding to $75 billion to develop semiconductors, 5G, and AI infrastructure. Additionally, Washington pressures major firms like Samsung and TSMC to scale back investments in China. The U.S. also embraces friendshoring, actively shifting supply chains toward allies such as India, Mexico, and Vietnam to reduce dependency on China. This multifaceted strategy reflects a broader shift from globalization to strategic decoupling, positioning the U.S. to compete not only economically, but also technologically and geopolitically. The approach reshapes the global tech ecosystem while deepening divisions in the emerging multipolar world order. Like this video if you found it interesting. In 2025, China pursues a dual strategy of self-reliance plus diversification in response to U.S. pressure. Technological breakthroughs are prioritized, with companies like Huawei and SMIC producing 5-nanometer chips, albeit with lower efficiency. Heavy investment in R&D is combined with covert operations, including cyber espionage, to acquire U.S. technologies. Facing export restrictions, China shifts focus to emerging markets. Russia becomes the top buyer of Chinese chips and smartphones, while exports of EVs, AI solutions, and 5G infrastructure surge in ASEAN and the Middle East. Economically, China adopts a retaliatory stance. It threatens to ban rare earth and lithium exports if the U.S. escalates further, targeting industries critical to American tech. Additionally, China takes legal action at the WTO and imposes anti-dumping tariffs on selected U.S. goods. This multi-front strategy reflects Beijing's long-term ambition to reduce dependence on Western technology, expand global influence, and reshape the global order in its favor. In 2025, the trend of decoupling between China and the West becomes increasingly unavoidable, driven by geopolitical tensions and national security concerns. Major U.S. companies such as Apple, Dell, and Nike relocate around 30% of their manufacturing operations out of China, seeking alternatives in countries like India, Vietnam, and Mexico. Similarly, the EU and Japan reduce their reliance on Chinese-made batteries and solar panels, shifting procurement to South Korea and Vietnam to diversify their supply chains and reduce strategic vulnerabilities. However, this decoupling comes with significant consequences. Global supply chains face serious disruptions, particularly in the semiconductor and automotive sectors, leading to shortages of chips and critical components. The transition to new suppliers also proves costly and complex, resulting in higher production expenses across industries. These increased costs are passed on to consumers, contributing to rising inflation in both developed and emerging markets. While the goal is to enhance resilience and reduce overdependence on China, the process reveals the deep interconnection of the global economy. Businesses and governments must navigate this new landscape carefully, balancing economic pressures with strategic imperatives. The decoupling trend is reshaping globalization, not by ending it, but by fragmenting it into politically aligned blocs with distinct trade and technology ecosystems. By 2025, the U.S. China trade and tech war yields mixed outcomes, with no clear winner. The U.S. maintains its technological superiority, especially in semiconductors and AI, but suffers from elevated inflation due to higher production costs from reshoring and friendshoring strategies. Political uncertainty also looms. If Trump is re-elected, tensions may escalate further, risking deeper global economic disruptions. China, on the other hand, experiences slower economic growth, with GDP expanding at under 4%. However, it becomes more self-reliant in key technologies like semiconductors and electric vehicles. Despite this progress, China faces severe internal challenges, including a worsening real estate crisis and an aging population, which undermine long-term economic stability. Meanwhile, countries like Vietnam, India, and Mexico emerge as key beneficiaries of the global manufacturing shift, attracting foreign investment and boosting their export sectors. Conversely, nations like Russia and Iran become increasingly dependent on China economically and technologically, aligning more closely with Beijing in the evolving global order. Ultimately, the global landscape in 2025 is shaped not by a decisive victory, but by a fragmented and polarized economic environment, where resilience, adaptability, and strategic alignment matter more than traditional definitions of winning. From 2025 to 2030, the U.S. China conflict is expected to persist, with neither side willing to back down. This prolonged rivalry will reshape the global landscape, dividing the world into two competing tech blocs, one led by the U.S. and the other by China. As nations are forced to choose sides, global supply chains become more fragmented. Consumers worldwide will face rising prices as production costs increase and trade barriers deepen. Innovation may slow due to restricted collaboration, while geopolitical tensions continue to fuel uncertainty across markets, diplomacy, and international alliances. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, drop your thoughts in the comments below, and hit that subscribe button to stay updated with more content like this. Your support means the world and helps the channel grow. Thanks for watching.